Ole Miss dispatched of the Citadel. Didn't look distracted at all, setting up a huge, weird matchup with the Florida Gators. Let's talk all about it and react accordingly. This is the Locked On Ole Miss podcast.
You are Locked On Ole Miss, your daily podcast on the Ole Miss Rebels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to the Locked On Ole Miss podcast, the most watched Ole Miss podcast out there. I'm your host, Stephen Willis, a 10-year veteran member of the national media with Yahoo Sports and a veteran of the Ole Miss staff as well. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, the number one sports podcast network in America. That's pretty cool. On today's show, we'll talk a little bit about the game that was Ole Miss completely dispatching of the Citadel Bulldogs, getting set up a weird matchup with the Florida Gators, and Ole Miss is off to their best start since 1962 at 9-1. Everything is coming up Millhouse right now, and that is an awesome thing. Remember, we are free and available on every podcast app and on YouTube, and a special hello to the insiders and everydayers who make the show what it is, your team every day. All right, so one thing that was interesting about this game, and we talked about it periodically before it started, was would this Ole Miss team be sloppy at the beginning? Would this Ole Miss team look like they did against Washington State? And that is unequivocally not the case. This was a fairly locked-in football team. They know the situation. They know the score. They know what they need to do. And they went out and took care of business. When Lane Kiffin posted on the indoor practice facility video screens about being the most focused you can on Thursday because that's what killers would do, and basically don't claim to be a killer and not be one, essentially. Lane Kiffin has set it up. This is not a distracted football team. All of this noise is constant at this point. It's ridiculous. Doesn't make sense if we're going to be completely honest about it, but it is at the point to where you would expect there would be a distraction. Look at what happened with the Tulane Green Wave when all the smoke started happening about John Sumrall. UTSA took them apart as a team. That was a distracted football team. Look Friday night at the Memphis Tigers. They were all slated to go to the playoffs. Everything was in front of them, and they were a distracted team right on the heels of Ryan Silverfield being rumored to Arkansas. Rumored coaches and all of this, it has a way of distracting teams. The team takes on, quote, the personality of the coach. And if the coach is doing all that, the team ends up usually distracted. This football team is not distracted at all. They didn't play what I would say was sloppy. In the second half, when you were up 42-0, it got sloppy. But that was the threes and parts of the twos and all of that stuff. The starters, when they were in the game, they kind of took care of business over and over again. It was 21-0 at the end of the first quarter. It was 35-0 at halftime, and they went down and scored a touchdown on the first drive of the second half. This was an Ole Miss football team that was fairly locked in. So we can't necessarily blame anybody. Ole Miss did what they had to do in this game. They were expected to blow out the Citadel, and they blew out the Citadel. Whether it was 49-0 or 56-0 or whatever to nothing the score, they were able to pull off beating handily the Citadel. And once we look at the stats, and we're going to look at the stats in the second segment, Ole Miss's defense played magnificently against the run. They didn't really play that well against the pass because they didn't have to. Citadel was only 3 for 8 and couldn't throw the football as it was. But against the run, Ole Miss locked in and made it fairly difficult. I think 13 tackles for loss, 2 sacks in the game as well against a team that didn't throw the football. And the Citadel got roughly half of their yardage for the game on one single play. This defense played well. They didn't play perfect. I'm not going to say they played perfect, but they played well. They played well enough that Ole Miss can beat everybody left on their schedule if the defense plays to that level. Defensively, I saw Cedric Beavers out there making plays again. He's kind of becoming a mainstay on the field. It was Cedric Beavers and Jalen Braxton playing cornerback with the reserve of Ricky Fletcher. And you actually saw Traylon Ray, who's been practicing at cornerback this week, getting in at corner in the game. You got to see a lot of the young players get into the game. Caleb Cunningham had a 19-yard catch. I think that was the first catch of his Ole Miss career. A.J. Maddox had a completion to Caleb Cunningham. That was his first completion. Andrew Maddox getting into the game. LaDarian Carter flashed. I saw Andy Jaffe out there playing free safety. A lot of young players got into this football game that we expected to see. Dylan Alford had a catch in this second half as well. Lots of true freshmen got to influence the game. If I didn't call your name out, I didn't notice the number. It wasn't anything intentional. This football team is in a good spot, period. There's really no way to get around it. And with the Florida rumors kind of popping up all over the place and how weird the next 7 days are going to be, I don't think anybody can realize how weird this is. This would be like if Ole Miss played Auburn in 2022 when all that was going on. Florida writers are going to ask about it. They've asked Florida people. Florida people are confident about it. But that doesn't necessarily mean anything. It just doesn't. Because the one person that makes that decision isn't in Florida. Florida's the one that's asking. I had this friend in college that no matter who the girl was, he was absolutely certain he could get a date. Didn't matter if she had a boyfriend, didn't matter anything about it. Just her existence. He was 100% certain that by asking, she would go out with him. Now, that doesn't take into account at all how the girl feels. And Florida is that guy, essentially. They believe that whoever they ask out on a date will say yes. Doesn't matter what the reasons are to say no, they would say yes. And that is part of the reason why like 85% of the country that is kind of dismissing this thing as a whole. And the only ones that's pretty confident about this are the Florida people. Now, will Lane Kiffin say yes to the Florida Gators? I don't know. He makes weird decisions from time to time that's kind of unpredictable. But if he makes a logical decision, if he makes a smart decision, whenever you look at the facts and take out all of the stuff that could affect everything, there's no reason for him to go. He'd be silly to go. It would be just a bad decision overall. So this Florida game coming up is going to be weird because of what's coming out of Florida. And you're going to be like, well, this Ole Miss team is not looking like they're claiming. This Ole Miss team is not looking like a team that their coach is looking at other jobs. Lane Kiffin appears 100% locked into this playoff run, period. He's not looking at making a decision overall. He's not looking at doing anything. And any rumors about an ultimatum, I just don't believe. Because at the end of the day, Lane Kiffin is completely locked in on the next football game. Now, could it all change if Ole Miss loses to Florida? Potentially. It could. Because Ole Miss at that point would be 9-2, going down to Starkville, a likely 5-win team in Starkville, Mississippi. And we all know there's nothing more dangerous than a 5-win Egg Bowl team. So we'll see is the long and short of it. I don't think he's going, but if you look at it, if for some reason that Lane Kiffin decided to go and announce before the first playoff game and try to coach the playoffs, Ole Miss absolutely should not let him. Shouldn't. Go ahead, suspend him, do whatever. Don't fire him because you still want to make him quit. But don't let him coach the playoff game. Let assistants handle that. Let people committed to the program handle that as well. But if he's committed, which I think he is, this Ole Miss football team could be about to go on a special run, and we'll see exactly what it looks like as well. Really cool stuff going on for the Ole Miss Rebels right now. And I am curious to see exactly where they end up. All right, when we come back, we are going to do a little box score cleanup and then your comments. Remember, when you comment on here, put where you're commenting from, and I will try to shout you out and do all that because I'm curious to see exactly where people are listening from. This is the Locked On Ole Miss podcast. It's the weekend. It's time to look back and crown this week's MVP on Who Delivered, powered by DoorDash. Just like you can win every Saturday with DoorDash Streaks, saving more and more every time you order. These players delivered when it mattered most. Let's break it down. For Ole Miss, Trinidad Chambliss had a big day throwing the football today, going for about 333 yards and 3 touchdowns. It was a great day for an Ole Miss offense that was clicking again, and that should make Ole Miss fans very happy. When the pressure was on, he came through, no hesitation, no delay. And if you've been watching week after week, this performance wasn't on a fluke. Trinidad Chambliss is on a streak. And just like Trinidad Chambliss delivered for the Ole Miss Rebels, DoorDash delivers for your Saturdays. With DoorDash Streaks, you can save money every Saturday you order, stack it all up all season, and you could save up to $250, including $100 in DoorDash credits. Order this Saturday. Keep the streak alive. Fuel your game day only with DoorDash. Terms apply. Promo period runs through November 18th. All right, do us a favor. Like, subscribe, and comment on this video. Subscribe to whatever audio podcatcher this podcast is on, and give it a 5-star review. It costs absolutely nothing, but it helps keeps all of this free. Locked On is getting ready to change the game yet again, all in the name of having fun following your team. It's coming in December. We'll tell you more information when we have it. And thank you for making Locked On Ole Miss your first listen of the day. And thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network in America. That is really cool stuff indeed. So we'll see exactly how it goes. All right, a little box score cleanup action. One thing's interesting for this game. The defense kind of showed out. They treated an FCS team like an FCS team, and even though everybody would tell you stopping the run is a weakness, the front seven dominated, not having to worry about the pass. Ole Miss ended up with 35 first downs, 151 yards rushing, 452 yards passing, for a grand total of 603 yards. They did have a turnover in the game. Austin Simmons threw a pick a little bit towards the end. The Citadel, no points, 5 first downs, 83 yards rushing. 41 of those yards came on a McCluster-fluster play where they kind of fooled the Ole Miss defense, but 23 yards passing for a grand total of 106 yards. They did not have a turnover in the game. They did miss 2 field goals, and they got stopped a couple of times on 4th downs, which I consider to be just like a turnover as well. Kobe Tompkins was 3 for 6 for 23 yards. Bo Harrington, he was the McCluster-fluster recipient, had 53 yards rushing with a long of 41. Quentin Hayes had 35 yards on 12 carries for a grand total of 83. And receiving-wise, 3 different players caught the ball. For Ole Miss, hey, A.J. Maddox got to settle in and complete a pass. Austin Simmons, 7 of 12, 100 yards in the game. He did throw a weird pick that got deflected. Trinidad Chambliss, 29 of 33, 333 yards, 3 touchdowns. Really great game for him. Receiving-wise, it was crazy the number of people that caught passes in the game. I think Trinidad himself completed passes to 9 different wide receivers, and we always talk about how that makes it tougher for the teams to defend the Ole Miss offense. So when you look at tackles for loss, Ole Miss had 13, had 3 sacks on the game. Defensive line rushing, had 3 sacks. They did not throw the ball very often, by the way. They did not call many passes very often. But Ole Miss won the game 49-0, and it honestly was not that close. So we'll see exactly how that goes. But Ole Miss handled business against the Citadel, setting up a weird game with the Florida Gators. We'll talk about that in just a second as soon as we hear from our friends at Supply House. Stick around. You know, when the opening whistle blows on a new repair, get your crew moving forward with Supply House. Order today and see parts on your doorstep tomorrow. Over 280,000 plumbing, HVAC, and electrical items from the most trusted brands in the business. Their real-time inventory and honest lead times help keep you from punting jobs. And while their industry-leading customer service has always had your blind side. You need parts fast, though? Well, Supply House has next-day delivery. Talk about a game changer there. The Part Finder tools and 3D schematics can save you hours on jobs where every detail matters. Their Trademaster perks like priority shipping and dedicated support make the whole process smoother. Join the free Trademaster program today and score some serious perks like priority shipping, lower prices, and a dedicated support line. Visit supplyhouse.com to sign up for free and use the promo code SHCollege5. That is SHCollege5, all one word, for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. Real people, real service. All right, so let's take your comments for the remainder of the show. Remember, if you comment, put where you're commenting from. We do want to shout that out if we can. Thank you very much for tuning in to this show. And honestly, I want to give props to the crowd. You were playing the Citadel. You were up by 42 points. Student section was about as full as I've seen in one of these FCS games in a long time. So props go out to these students at the end of the game. All right, so let's look at these starred questions. All right. One Rusty Boy says, ready for the Florida game. I'll be coming from Dallas. Yeah, that's going to be a weird week. It's going to be a really weird week. And when you look at what could happen with everything that's set up, I'm going to be on 1 or 2 Florida podcasts over the course of the week. And I'm quite certain they're ambush type things to where they didn't like something I said. And I don't care about that. But it is interesting. They're ready for it to go. They're ready for it to blow up and to make this a distraction, essentially. They're trying to dominate the narrative by flooding the zone with all of this stuff, even though nothing is actionable happening. So we'll see. Some people are such that flooding the zone is all that needs to happen, because if you hear something over and over again, eventually you're believing it's going to be true. So we'll see. It's going to be a great game against the Florida Gators. Ole Miss last won 10 games in a regular season, I think. In 2002, they went 10-2. But Ole Miss has the chance to go 11-1 by winning out. Ole Miss is greater than 70% chance of winning both of these games. We'll see. Florida has Kentucky. They're missing half their team. We'll see what happens with Jaden Baugh. But if for some reason Kentucky wins that game, Florida's going to be on Q watch. They just are. Jaden Baugh is a really good player. I'm not a huge fan of DJ Lagway, but he's a good player. A person, that's a good name. I don't understand what has happened to Simmons. He looks like a different player than he did when he played last season. No, he looks like the same player. He's just a little bit unlucky right now. That's all. He's pressing a little bit. He's trying to make something happen. He's trying to score a 14-point touchdown on every single play. I mean, it's normal. It's what college kids do when they get their opportunity. It's important to realize that Austin Simmons did nothing wrong in all of this. If Austin Simmons would not have gotten hurt, Ole Miss would have likely been in the same exact position with him as the starting quarterback. But the way it's situated, Trinidad Chambliss, Wally pipped him. It happened. And even though he got injured, he did not have a job when he came back because of how Trinidad performed. So it's not a situation where he's trying to do more or something like that. It's just pressing a little bit. He's just trying to score a 14-point touchdown every single time. James York from Vicksburg, damn good win. Glad to see all the players that ride the line get opportunities. He meant to say ride the pine on that one, I do believe. Yes, it was good to see Caleb Cunningham get a catch. It was good to see AJ Maddox, LaDarian Clardy, all of those guys that you have seen. It was good to see them making plays. So we will see exactly how that goes as well. Should be pretty interesting to see. I'm a huge fan. Adam Alva says, we get to the playoffs. My biggest concern is DB play. Bust will absolutely kill us. Well, that's the same thing for the other team that Ole Miss is playing. There's no such thing as a perfect team. There's no such thing as a well-coached super team. Every team has flaws. And these college football playoffs are about exploiting those flaws. What Ole Miss is doing now, finally, is after the Georgia game, they decided they were just going to start speeding up whoever they were playing. They were going to start getting after the quarterback. Make a college player make a quick decision. And the last 3 games, they've gotten better and better. They've had 3 sacks in each and all of the games. And when you look back, that's what's happening. The defense are making explosive plays on the back end with 2 interceptions against the South Carolina Gamecocks. It is one of those situations to where this Ole Miss defense is coming together and gelling at exactly the right time, especially with the Florida Gators coming into town. Remember, when it comes to Florida, the key to Florida is stopping Jaden Baugh. That is key 1 through 55. Stop Jaden Baugh. If they beat you throwing the ball, they beat you throwing the ball, but don't give up balls up over the top and stop Jaden Baugh. If you do that, you're going to win the game. Douglas Sherman, I hate to think it. I hate to say it, but I don't want Simmons as our quarterback next year. No, stop it. That makes no sense whatsoever. Mark Walsh from St. Louis. I could not watch the game because I don't have that channel, but curious, what did you think of Austin's play? Austin is trying to score 14-point touchdowns every time he throws the ball. And that's what he's doing at the moment. And when you look at that, that affects everything. The interception that Austin threw was not Austin's fault even a little bit. A guy made a play. It got deflected directly into the path of a running player. That happens. Trinidad had 6 passes deflected today, and they all just fell harmlessly to the ground. It was just bad luck. Basically, all the Citadel could do to stop these hitches were corner blitzes. And corner blitzes, they would get their hand up in the air, and they would try and bat the football. And that one just went straight to a linebacker. That's all. It wasn't anything like that. Now, I do think Austin's pressing. I do think that the right guy is starting at quarterback. I don't think that you can make any more judgments this season off of a play against the Citadel than you did last season. It's just my opinion on that. So we'll see exactly how it goes. Chase Wheeler says, so I kind of lost track on Lacey's stats, but did he surpass those records that were listed on my TV early in the game? He was at 14, and it was up there with Archie Manning's record and Deuce McAllister's record as well. He's tied with Quinshon Judkins for the school record in touchdowns at the moment. He had 3 in the game. So one more touchdown, and he becomes the all-time touchdown leader in Ole Miss history. That's pretty cool, pretty cool. Jay Cannon, the defense looked better today than they have all year. From Lumberton, Mississippi, hotty toddy. Yeah, it's amazing how good that defense can be when you don't have to worry about the other team throwing the ball at all. And speaking of which, right now, Hugh Freeze is having a rough day. Hugh Freeze is not having the best day in the world. He's probably struggling because Auburn's about to put up 21 points in the first half. And the offensive genius could not do that over the course of a game for most of the season. A person, if they try to let him coach in the playoffs, if he is leaving there'll be a riot on campus. Yeah, you can't do that. Anything coming out of Lane Kiffin talking, like being real about making a decision while Ole Miss is still playing in a playoff run, will cause problems. It will. It just will. Alan Beck says 33. That's Shakai Mills' night. It looks like he might be a load. He may be special. Yes, and I think he had a chance to score if A.J. Maddox didn't push him on that last play. It just knocked him off balance because he wasn't expecting it. But Shakai Mills Knight's going to be a really good football player. Aaron Anderson says, time to eat some Gators. Yes, tastes like chicken, by the way. Tastes like chicken. Canu to you from Amory. What are the chances that Chambliss gets another year of eligibility? 50-50 or less. Okay. This is what I've heard about the waiver process with Trinidad Chambliss. And this comes from the national championship broadcast from Ferris State when they were describing what he's gone through. In 2021, he redshirted, just a straight red shirt. There's nothing there to apply a waiver for. In 2022, they referred to it as a medical red shirt. Now, here's the thing with calling that a medical red shirt. You cannot apply for a medical red shirt until after the eligibility is expired, which means you wouldn't even be able to apply for it until it's over, until, honestly, the end of this season. He played in 2020, 2023, 24, and this year, of course. So what it sounds like to me is they're just applying for a medical hardship waiver for 2022 that Ferris State thought they were going to be able to get because they leaked that information to the broadcast crew that was calling their Division II national championship game. So Trinidad Chambliss applying for a medical hardship waiver in 2022 is what's going on. Now, do I think he gets it? He only played 2 games, so he meets the criteria of the number of games played that year for a red shirt. You're not going to the point where you got injured 7 or 8 games into a season. It's 2 games into the season being played, but it also depends on which games he played in, to where if it's game 7 and game 2, he probably won't get it. I think he's probably 50-50 right now, and it all comes down to the NCAA granting that medical red shirt. As Ronald Mathis says right there. Connor Quinn, Cunningham got to get some PT coming in from Dallas. Yeah, it's just one of those things to where it's interesting because he didn't get here in the spring, so he got here behind. The same thing happened to Shakai Mills Knight. And behind the 8 ball with this staff is going to be very difficult. TTK Trace, we played pretty good on both sides of the ball, and it was really nice to see the backups get some reps. Yes, it was very nice. You got to use this, literally got to use this like an extra bye week, which was the point whenever you scheduled a game against the Citadel in November, was to get an extra bye week. And now it's bye week, get ready for Florida. Then it's bye week, get ready for Mississippi State. And if you win both of them, you're in the playoffs, period. There's no talking about it whatsoever. Hayden Tisdale, I'm concerned with Trinidad's tip balls. I get it, but he's not tall. But, man, he tends to have a lot of tip balls against him. Yeah, he is essentially Kyler Murray. I think I asked Daquan Wright when he was on my podcast a couple weeks ago, is he 6 foot tall? And he said he was. And I'm not 100% sure. I don't know if I'll buy that. Kevin Floyd says, quit stressing over Simmons. Either he'll get it together or Chambliss will stay or Kiffin will get another great portal win. Either way, the playoffs probably at home this year, which is awesome. Absolutely correct. Let's see. Let's take one more question before we get out of here and enjoy the rest of our football day. It should be a really good day. Let's see. From John Skinner, he's got one quarterback coming from Connecticut, I thought. Yes, that's Keegan Croucher, the true freshman coming in. He's going to play in the Under Armour All-American Bowl, which I intend to be down here for whenever that's going on. So I'll be able to check in on Keegan Croucher and see how he's performing in practice and things like that in the game. So Ole Miss having a quarterback in that game, that is a real deal type thing. Anyway, thank you for making Locked On Ole Miss your go-to source for Ole Miss sports. We pride ourselves on offering the most comprehensive perspectives, which is why we are the front door of Ole Miss. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment. It helps the show, and it's absolutely free. Your support means the world to us. Thank you for making Locked On Ole Miss your first listen. For your second listen, check out Locked On SEC. Chris Gordy breaks down the best conference in college sports, from the rivalries to the championship and every game in between. Find Locked On SEC on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, the #1 sports podcast network in the United States. Your team every day. Hotty toddy, everybody. And remember, analytics is just the old English word that means bad football. We'll see you absolutely tomorrow.